Hi friends, welcome to Anna with Plants. My name is Anastasia. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. I had so much fun filming the last top 10 Hoya that I just decided to do another one. And as you can tell by the title of this video, it's going to be a top 10 Hoya for Hoya haters. I have had comments here and there just talking about how some people weren't the biggest fan of Hoyas, and that's totally fine, to each their own in the plant hobby. So I decided to do 10 categories for 10 different Hoya to showcase how different the genus can be and how variable the species can be. I would also like to add that the Hoya that I'm picking for each category isn't necessarily my favorite Hoya, but I decided to pick a Hoya that I think best represents each category, and that is also pretty easy to get your hands on. So the first category is going to be easy to bloom, and I think you guys might know which Hoya I'm going to pick, or I guess which type of Hoya I'm going to pick. That is going to be a good old-fashioned lacunosa. I picked this one just because it is blooming currently and has been blooming for pretty much the last couple of months. It is covered in peduncles. This is my Hoya lacunosa royal flush. I really love how the growth comes in. Here's a nice patch of growth that's coming in, and it's more on the dark side, and then it has these really nice splashes through it, but it's kind of like a darker purple when it comes in. And then this is what those blooms look like. So pretty cute, pretty standard lacunosa blooms, and it is just covered in peduncles. There's another one right here. I also kind of cheated and I brought another lacunosa in. This one is pretty well known. You can get your hands on it, and it kind of had like a very popular phase. This is the Hoya lacunosa super silver. It kind of goes by a lot of different names, and I actually bought this one originally as a Hoya croniana, but there's been a lot of debate on if a croniana is just the same as a lacunosa, and I can't really give you the answer to that since there is a lot of back and forth. But I did want to show you, these blooms are falling off, so I just want to show you them before they fall off. They kind of all have the same look to them. And I know this one does look pretty dry. A lot of these Hoya really need to be watered, so that is definitely what I'm gonna do after I'm done filming this video, but I just wanted to film it first. And so yeah, lots of peduncles happening. Hoya lacunosas in general are easy growers. They grow quite quickly, but most importantly, they bloom pretty early, so you don't have to wait over a year for it to bloom, and you don't really have to dial in the conditions either to get them to bloom a lot. For people that don't like Hoyas because they're kind of hard to bloom, or maybe they had Hoyas that didn't ever bloom, I would highly suggest to get yourself a lacunosa and give it a try, because they are pretty forgiving plants. The next category is going to be a silvery Hoya, and for this one I wanted to do the Nova Ghost because it is, in my opinion, one of the more beautiful ones that you can get your hands on, because each leaf kind of does its own thing. So there are leaves that are more full silver, but then there also are leaves that kind of have more of a pattern to it. And this one also needs to be desperately trellised. There's a little tendril action happening here. The Nova Ghost looks a lot like the Gray Ghost. I personally like the Nova Ghost better. This is a reverted Argentinian princess. I feel like the leaves on the Nova Ghost are just a lot more clean looking, if that makes sense. They're more uniform and round, whereas the Gray Ghost leaves can kind of look a bit deformed or have a tendency to do that. If you are in the market for a good Hoya that it has a lot of silver, I really suggest this one. And in terms of growth, if you own a Nova Ghost, then you know that they are easy growers. The next category is splash, and I went back and forth on which splashy Hoya that I wanted to show, and I kind of wanted to do an atypical one. When you think of a splashy Hoya, this is generally not one that comes to mind. However, in my mind, it still kind of counts as splash, even though it's not the typical splash that you think of. And this is the Hoya caudata. I think I got the Hoya caudata silver. To me, the splash kind of looks like it's been stamped on, which is kind of cool, or maybe even a camo pattern. The nice thing about a caudata is they just grow and grow and grow. You really don't have to do much for them to shoot out vines and just grow wild. Like these tendrils over here, just they get all up in your cabinets and all over your shelf. It is quick to grow. This trellis, I got it here, is like a big hoop trellis, and it really loves to grow on this side. I kind of hope over time the top and the other side will start to fill in. The other thing that I really love about the Caudata is the blooms. I got mine to bud up, but then the buds blasted, so I'm super close. I am close. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that peduncle. That is the peduncle that I had on it that started to bud up and it blasted, unfortunately. The other cool thing about the Caudata is it can get some sun stressed, which is also super nice if you want to do that to it. But overall, a really nice splashy Hoya, and I think this might appeal to some Hoya haters, perhaps. The next category is variegated, and I wanted to pick one that has a really awesome pattern to it in the back as well. So for that one, I picked the Hoya Kentiana Lori Lynn. I love this one because the leaves come in this hot pink color. They do fade down to like a normal green. I really love this one because this is the outer variegated version, and I mostly love this one because look at the backs of the leaves right here. They are so beautiful. It's almost kind of like they're painted on. I really love the stripes down them, I guess you can call that. It is not your fastest grower, but I think you do get that payoff in terms of that color and then the backs of the leaves. So this is the Lori Lynn for variegated. The next category is going to be texture, and this one I didn't even need to think about it. This Hoya, in my opinion, has the best texture out there. So this is definitely my favorite Hoya for texture for sure, and that is going to be the Hoya Cowdang, or I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. It's after the place where it was discovered. However, look at that texture. It is something to behold. I really love it. Also, these leaves are hella dry, so when it is hydrated, it looks even better. I promise you. But the texture, and it just is insane. It also has a great shine to it. The leaves on the back are also very pubescent and fuzzy, and I love that. As you feel this Hoya, you get to feel all of the edges that pop up on the leaf, but then the back of your hand is feeling this pubescence as well. It is just a multi-textural Hoya. It looks really great. It is like a deep green color. It grows well. It's just an all in all great Hoya, and it just looks so beautiful in my opinion. I just don't understand how you can hate this Hoya. I really don't. It's so good, so good. The next category I have is hanging, and I'm gonna totally cheat and I'm gonna use a Hoya that I used in my last top 10 video, but I do love this one, and I can't pick a hanging Hoya without it just is the quintessential hanging Hoya in my opinion anyway. That is a Hoya linearis, and I know I showed it in the last one and all of you have seen this one before, but it is just so good for a hanging Hoya. So this is mine, and since the last time I filmed it, I think it really has grown so much more. Like if I can get this like on a shelf or something, it just looks so beautiful. Even if you don't like Hoya, I feel like a lot of people really enjoy this Hoya just because of its appearance. That is the main reason I chose it, because I know a lot of people that hate Hoya have this Hoya in their home because it is just a statement piece when it's on a shelf and hanging like this. It really, no other plant looks exactly like this plant. It is a 10 out of 10. It's not one of my videos if I don't talk about a Hoya with great veination, because I love myself a veiny Hoya. This category was probably the hardest for me to just pick one of them since I have so many veiny hoyas. I really ought to do a video just on the veiny hoyas because that makes me personally very excited. But the one that I chose for this category is going to be the Hoya CV Ann, just because it is one that I don't hear talked about quite as much. This one might be one of the ones that is a little bit harder to get because I don't see it out there too often, but I know it is out there. The veination is something to behold. It is one of the flatter ones, so you're not going to get any texture on it, but the contrast on the veins is really, really good. That's why I picked it for this category. This one is a newer one. This leaf is actually quite big. Excitingly, I have a peduncle on it, and I don't even know what the blooms look like. It did begin to bud up, but the blooms did blast because I underwatered it, unfortunately. So I think one day I will see the blooms on this one. I don't even know what they look like because I googled this Hoya and I couldn't find a picture of the blooms. So if you happen to know what the blooms look like, I would be very interested to see them, or I can maybe just perhaps be patient enough for it to bloom one day. This is such a beautiful Hoya and I think it will appeal to a lot of different people. I had to add an easy category to this as well. It's not going to be the most show-stopping Hoya, but I think some people just want a plant out there that you can not maybe give the best care in the world, but you just know it's gonna live and it's gonna keep growing. And in my mind, when it comes to easy Hoyas, I would say that a publicalyx is a pretty easy Hoya. It is not gonna be a good bloomer though. I heard that they are pretty hard to bloom and they do take a long time to bloom. However, in terms of just ease of care, a publicalyx, you can't really go wrong with it. I picked a publicalyx hybrid. I know that it gets its ease of care because it is half publicalyx. The other half is a pink silver ghost, I believe, and that is the Hoya CV crystal. This one is again very understated. It does have a little bit of splash on it, so it's not like it's just pure green. You will notice that none of the Hoyas here are just gonna be the boring leaf, all green Hoyas, because I think that's where a lot of the Hoya hate comes from. All of the Hoyas just are boring and it's a green leaf and who cares because they don't care that much about the blooms. So this one is probably maybe the closest to a boring Hoya that I have to show today. However, it does have a little bit of splash in it, and this one can be trellised if you prefer, or it can be hanging, which is what I have it as right now. And it is just a really hardy Hoya. It always dries out like bone dry. It is currently very bone dry. Like you can see, like there's no moisture in there whatsoever, but when you water it, it always bounces back. This one was also covered in quite a bit of mealies and it still kept growing. It really didn't care that it had a pest on it. A nice thing about this one, being a hybrid of a publicalyx, is it might bloom a little bit earlier than a typical one, and the blooms on the crystal here are very, very beautiful. I want to say it's like a deep purpley pink kind of bloom, but I will go ahead and post up a picture of it. It's just a really, really easy Hoya. This one, in my mind, would be pretty hard to kill. This is the Hoya crystal. Hi, I'm standing for this next category because it's gonna be a giant Hoya, and I normally advocate for buying your plants tiny to grow them out. However, I bought this one really, really big when I got into Hoya, and for the Hoya haters out there, I would say a lot of them just hate how it's a prop, you know, and you have a ton of props of these two leaf cuttings and it just looks kind of dumb, I guess, to them, is what I've heard anyway. So buying yourself a big boy Hoya, at least one in your collection to kind of get your toes wet in the Hoya world, I think is a good way to go because it might change your opinion, especially because of the Hoya being so big. It is also more mature, so that means it's going to increase the chances of it actually blooming for you. And after you get your first Hoya bloom, I'd say you're pretty hooked. So without further ado, I'm going to pick this one up. It is huge. This is my Hoya Crimson Queen, and I'm gonna stand back, or try to stand back. I have no idea what the best. So this is her. She is a freaking beast. This one is a huge one. I have done it dirty because I've kind of been keeping it in a very dark corner, so it hasn't grown too much for me this year. But last year, I'm gonna post up some pictures when it was in a good lighted spot and it was blooming for me, and the blooms are super beautiful. So beginning at the bottom all the way to the top, it's actually taller than me. So I don't know how to show this Hoya adequately. Let me just sit back down. I'm just covered in Hoya right now. This is her. She is a beast. Her blooms also smell like chocolate, so who doesn't love chocolate? Get yourself a big Hoya because hopefully it will make you fall in love with Hoya and show you that it does not always have to be a 2-leaf prop. It can be so much more. There are definitely Hoyas that start off as 2-leaf props and become this big. The last category is a unique Hoya, and when I thought about this category in my collection, I ended up picking this one, which is I believe this one's called a Sigitalis, and this one in particular is the Borneo variety. It has a lot more splash on it, but I love this one because the backs of the leaves are purple, and I think that's pretty unique. It has like a tinge, like a purpley blue-green tinge to it that a lot of Hoya don't have. There's not too many like blue, green, purple Hoyas out there. This one, I've seen it more as like a trailing Hoya, but you do you. I think it's just a really unique Hoya. I don't even know what the blooms look like, so I might have to look up what the blooms look like, but in terms of what the foliage is, I think this one is super duper pretty. That wraps up 10 Hoyas for the Hoya haters. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you are a Hoya hater, please voice off in the comments down below. I would be very interested to hear why you don't like Hoyas, and if there is one Hoya out there that you do happen to like, which Hoya it is. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.